Hi, I'm Chelsea Austin, and I'm the Executive Director of Dance in Color. Thank you so much for joining us today. At Dance in Color, we strive to provide scholarships to young dancers of color in order to pursue their dreams through dance and ultimately create systemic change within the dance world. We're a young organization, but in less than 6 months, we've been able to raise over $25,000 and support 3 young, talented, and inspiring, passionate girls with their dreams in dance. With over 99% of all donations going directly to our dancers, we work to make sure that their needs are covered beyond class. That means point shoes, dance apparel, and more.
I'm Adrian Mitchell, and I'm the Artistic Director of Dance in Color. As a member of the Mikhailovsky Theater, one of the last imperial theaters of Russia, the work that we are doing at Dance in Color is incredibly important to me. Similarly to the dancers that we provide scholarships for, I wouldn't be where I am today if it hadn't been for the scholarships I received as a young Black ballet dancer. I am thrilled to introduce the first roundtable discussion in our series, Black Icons in Dance, Black Educators of Today. We are so excited to introduce you to some of the most incredible and groundbreaking Black dancers who are now helping to shape the dancers of tomorrow and to share their inspiring stories with you.
Hello, I'm Casey Morse, and I'm the Director of Development for Dance in Color. Our organization began as a group of friends and family who wanted to effect systemic change, specifically in the classical ballet community. We knew, either from experience or from viewing, that the European ideal in which the classical ballet world has grown did not properly showcase all of the talent out there, particularly the talents of young Black dancers. We hope not only to inspire young dancers, but to also educate the dance community and beyond about the racial inequalities in dance.
Hi, I'm Andrea, and I'm the Artistic Assistant for Dance in Color. I wanted to take a minute to introduce you to our scholars before the program begins. Violet, Grace, and Cassandra are all beautiful and passionate dancers, and we are so proud to support their dreams. Their training and point shoes, however, are expensive, and they will need your support to continue their journey in dance. So please click the link or QR code below to show how much you care about their future.
Lastly, I'm Dominic Wächter, the CFO of Dance in Color. I once again want to direct your attention to the bottom of the screen. There you will see a link and a QR code that you can utilize to make a donation. Please feel free to click the link or scan the code at any point during the roundtable discussion. We are grateful for your generosity in supporting our incredible scholars as we continue to grow.
We are friends.
We are family.
We are Dance in Color.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and enjoy.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Adrian Blake Mitchell, and I'm the Artistic Director of Dance in Color, the charitable foundation which is presenting today's historic event. I am incredibly honored to be here hosting the first installment of our roundtable series, Black Icons in Dance, Educators of Today. I'm here with an incredibly esteemed panel of guests who are all helping to guide the next generation of dancers. They have all broken the barriers that so often are imposed upon people of color and have shown themselves as true trailblazers in our industry. I'm thrilled to have my friend and colleague, Casey Morse.
Hello, everyone. As Adrian just said, I'm Casey Morse, and I'm the Director of Development at Dance in Color. I'm so honored to be here today with all of you. As a young girl, I dreamed of being a ballet dancer and am in awe of all of your incredible careers that you guys have had. As an adult, I'm extremely passionate about dance and bringing dance and arts education to children of color so that they too can follow their dreams just as everyone here has. So thank you for joining us today.
To get us started, I would like to first introduce you to the incredible group of people that we have with us today. Our very own Jason Ambrose of San Francisco Ballet School and Director of Programming at Dance in Color. Lauren Anderson of Houston Ballet Academy. Aisha Ash of School of American Ballet. Debra Austin of Carolina Ballet. Ikolo Griffin of Pacific Northwest Ballet School. Charmaine Hunter of Orlando Ballet School. And Andrea Long-Naidu of Boston Ballet School.
To start off our discussion, we first want to get to hear a little bit about you and your journey and how you got here today. So we'd love to hear from each one of you about your biggest career highlights. Was it somehow breaking a racial barrier or making history, which so many of you have done at least once in your career? We'd love to hear from you.
I started dancing quite late. I actually started with hip hop dance at the age of 16. Then at the age of 17, I started my formal training in ballet in Virginia Beach, Virginia, where I grew up. My first teacher was from the National Ballet of Cuba. And I spent a year there training with her before I went to Pittsburgh Ballet Theater School, where I was for about 2 years. After that, ironically enough, where I first met Adrian was at Bolshoi Ballet Academy Summer Intensive. And then from there, I went on to Ellison Ballet Professional Training Program in New York City, where I stayed for about 3 years. My path went kind of all over the place, and in between, like doing some small performing opportunities, I transitioned into a lot of different teaching. I served as resident choreographer at Ellison Ballet for a period of time. I did a lot of choreography for competitions, as well as school performances. I then moved to Texas, where I was teaching for a year to 2 years. And then I received an invitation to study in St. Petersburg, where I became the first African-American to enroll in their program at the St. Petersburg Conservatoire. And I was also invited there to dance with the ballet theater of the St. Petersburg Conservatoire by former Kirov Ballet director Oleg Vinogradov. After I returned from Russia, I went back to Texas, where I taught at Elite Classical Coaching. I was ballet master there for 2 years. And I had a student at Prix de Lausanne who won second prize in 2020. She was seen by Patrick Armand, who invited me to come and audition for San Francisco Ballet School. Also, my former teacher, Edward Ellison, was there with one of his students. So he also talked to Patrick about me when Patrick was in search for a new men's teacher. And now I've joined the faculty of San Francisco Ballet since August. I moved here. So in the middle of the pandemic and everything, packed it up and moved to San Francisco. And I guess a highlight in my career would be my opportunity to go to Russia. That was incredible. And it was also incredible to be there with Adrian. It was, if I wouldn't have had him and I had another friend there that really helped me, wow, that was a time. But I'm thankful and glad that he was there also to help me as I tried to get used to life in Russia as a Black dancer. But that's a little bit about me. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. That was wonderful. It's so exciting. I'm thrilled to hear your full connection with Adrian. That's awesome. So Lauren, I'm going to pin your video now.
Hi, my name is Lauren Anderson. I started dancing at the Houston Ballet Academy at the age of 7. I only studied there. I wish I'd had all the opportunities that these students have now, which they don't understand, to have classes and go to summer intensives everywhere. But I didn't. I stayed at Houston Ballet, and I actually got into the company after I graduated from high school, went through the ranks, became their first Black principal dancer in 1990. After that, I continued on, and then I retired from Houston Ballet in 2006 and walked literally across the hall into education and community engagement. And now I'm the associate director of that department. Ben Stevenson had this idea back in 1987 that I should start teaching ballet, which I thought he was absolutely nuts, because I'm like, I'm not trained as a dancer, as a dance teacher, because I think there's a lot that you have to know, but he trained me. And so I've been teaching ballet. Well, actually, I've been giving classes since 1987. I've been teaching ballet probably since I retired, right? Because I think when you stop actually dancing in class is when you can really start teaching. So I've been teaching all over, everywhere as a guest teacher. I work in education and community engagement. A highlight in my career, I'd have to say, I think the biggest form of flattery is to have a ballet or a piece created on you and you thought of for that piece. So I'd have to say the biggest highlight was having the ballet Cleopatra done for me. That was huge because it wasn't just a fairy or some animal or some character. She was a person that actually walked the face of the earth, right? But, you know, for me personally, every time I got to do a new classical role, it was a highlight for me because I didn't expect to ever be there. So how I got here, you guys invited me. That's how I got here. And I'm honored to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. I loved what you said about portraying a real human. That speaks a lot to me. Next, we have Aisha. We'd love to hear from you.
Thank you for having me. I started my career much like Jason. I didn't start with classical ballet. I wasn't interested in ballet. I wanted to do Broadway. So I started with tap and jazz and doing lots of competitions. And it wasn't until a teacher came to my studio and said that if I had interest in these other forms of dance, that I should take ballet a little bit more seriously. I was hesitant, but decided to do that. And it wasn't, you know, love at first class like many ballet dancers. It took a moment, and it actually was the other forms of dance came very easy to me. And I never really loved the idea of competing. And ballet was a challenge from day one. And it continued to be a challenge throughout my career. But I liked that challenge. I like to be pushed. I like to be challenged. And then it took kids going away for the summer and for us to sort of ask, where are these kids going? That all of a sudden every summer they're disappearing. And it was then that my mother was told about summer programs, but also warned that it would be difficult for me as a woman of color to pursue ballet. And people who know me know that I am the personality that I like a challenge. And if you tell me I can't do something, I'm just going to want to do it even more. So that really pushed me beyond the challenge of ballet. The challenge that it would be difficult as a woman of color was really what pushed me very hard into the career of ballet. I auditioned for SAB. I went there for 3 summers and 2 full years. I then got into the company. I was in the company for about 7.5 years. At that point, once I left New York City Ballet, it's a long story, but I had planned on retiring from the dance world altogether and just becoming a waitress in New York, but got convinced to keep dancing. I decided to audition for Beaux-Arts Ballet de Lausanne in Lausanne, Switzerland. And I went there for 2 years. And then got hired while on tour in France by Alonzo King, and went to San Francisco and danced there for 2 years. I then went freelance and danced with Christopher Wheeldon, who at the time had the company Morphosis, and did that for about 1.5 years and then retired. I think as far as highlights in my career, if I have to think during my dancing days, I think one of my highlights would have been having a piece choreographed on me, as Miss Anderson said, but it was by Albert Evans. And it was one of the first New York City Ballet dancers I ever met, even before becoming a student of the School of American Ballet. So he had come with Wendy Whalen to guest perform The Nutcracker when I was a child in Rochester, New York. And so ever since then, him and Wendy have just been, had a special place in my heart. And I just, I admired Albert Evans greatly. So to have a piece choreographed on me by him was a huge highlight. Also, it was another Black dancer in the company, a principal. And that was just a really, really special moment for me in my career dancing days.
Wow. I also remember when I met Albert Evans, I ran up to him like he was a celebrity, because he was like larger than life. It would have been amazing if he was with us to be here today.
Yeah.
Next, we have Debra. We'd love to hear from you.
I'm quite honored to be amongst all of these lovely, wonderful people. My career started I went to a local ballet school with my best friend. And the teacher there told my parents that I had no talent when I was 8 years old. So my parents said, okay, if she has no talent, she still wants to dance. So they took me someplace else. So they took me to Children's Ballet Theater, which was the owner of the school. Her name was Christine Newbert. And a lot of dancers have come from her school. But I was really fortunate because it was in Carnegie Hall and I lived in the Bronx. So they had an off school in the Bronx. So I got to go there, and I go on the weekends. I would go to the city, to Carnegie Hall, to rehearse for our productions. And so I was really fortunate because my very first ballet teacher, her name was Barbara Walczak, and she was a soloist in the New York City Ballet. She's actually in the original cast of Agon with Arthur Mitchell. So she was one of the pas de trois. So it was a blessing in disguise for me because I had that training from the time I was 9 years old. And Barbara was a great teacher. So she wrote down every class like that she either took Nabokov, Dabrowski's classes, Stanley Williams classes. She wrote them all down. She sent me the classes. I mean, it's just phenomenal. Now the book is out. She has a book with, I think, I forget, Nancy Reynolds, I think might have helped her to do it. But anyway, so then when I was 11 years old, she asked Diana Adams, who was the director of the School of American Ballet, to come to the Bronx and take a look at me. And she said to keep me for another year and to come. I needed to work on my feet. So I used to sit with our console television with my feet underneath them every night. But I wore Freed's ballet slippers, which had leather soles. And I sewed the elastics like a point shoe, and I didn't have the ribbons. So maybe that's quite possible that it didn't show. So anyway, so when I was 12, I got a full scholarship, Ford Foundation scholarship, to go to the School of American Ballet. And then I studied there for 4 years. And then the highlight of my career was when George Balanchine came in and took me into the company when I was 16 years old. So that was quite special. And then I stayed with the New York City Ballet for 8 years. And I had a lot of fortunes because I actually had a lot of things choreographed on me. John Clifford gave me my first principal part when I was 18. I did Balanchine choreographed a solo for me in Ballo della Regina. Jerry Robbins choreographed Chansonnet America. I also danced 4 seasons of his, which was kind of in a way done on me, but Suzanne and Patricia McBride actually went before me, even though he worked with me on it first. Jacques d'Amboise, I danced a lead in his ballet. So I had a lot of milestones that I'm quite proud of. And then I got frustrated after a while and thought, I'm tired of jumping. And I had visited a friend in Zurich, Switzerland, and I thought, how wonderful. Maybe it would be really great to go live in Europe for a while. So Pat Neary happened to be in New York, and so I asked her if I could join, and she said yes. And so I went to Zurich as a soloist there, and then I stayed there for 2 years. I missed home. I was very close to my mother. So I decided I wanted to come back home. And then I went to the theater, and Peter Martins, he actually asked me if I wanted to go back to City Ballet, but I said, no, I don't think so. And he said, I know somebody that's getting a company. If you're interested, give me your number and I'll have him call you. Well, that somebody was Robert Weiss. So I took class at Robert Denver's, and then he took me as a principal into Pennsylvania Ballet in 1982. So that's kind of my journey. And then I danced there for 8 years. So then I went to Miami. My husband's a dancer, which his name is on the screen. I just noticed. I am Debra Austin, not Marin Boyaru. But anyway, he went to Miami City Ballet to dance, and I decided to stop. I wanted to have a family. By that time, I was 36. So I was like, I think it's time to move on. So I had 2 children there. And then when Ricky, we call him Robert Weiss, got the Carolina Ballet 23 years ago. He invited us to come. My husband still danced for him for a little bit, and then to become ballet masters here. So now we're ballet masters, and now we've opened a school. So I teach in the school. So I teach from 8-year-olds to principals in the company. So yeah, so it's been a long journey. It's been a long journey, as I say.
Yes, one that we're all thankful for all the incredible work you've put in. Next, Ikolo Griffin.
Hi, everybody. Wow, that's a tough one to follow. Debra, amazing. Holy moly, my mind is just blown right now. It's incredible, your story. I definitely would love to hear more about all the people that you've worked with and stuff. I'm blown away. I don't even know where to start now. One thing I am noticing, though, there's definitely a striking difference between Black male ballet dancers in the dance world and the female ballet dancers in the world. And that's something, too, I wonder if we could have a conversation about, because I think that's something that's very prevalent. Just kind of like in ballet in general, there's two experiences. There's a male ballet dancer experience and the female ballet dancer experience, and something that just, I don't know, that's for another time, I guess. But,
I totally agree. Absolutely.
It's wonderful to be here with everybody and to see old friends. And thank you so much for having me. It is an honor. I don't know where to start. I guess for me, I feel like dance, I always say dance found me. Like, I feel what I hear so far is for you guys, you were attracted to dance. You sought it out. But for me, I was just kind of, I was just in my elementary school. I went to a Japanese bilingual elementary school in San Francisco growing up. And the San Francisco Ballet came to my school and did some outreach. And I didn't even know what it was, but I liked the music, jumping around. Michael Jackson was really popular back then. And, we were dancing to Thriller and stuff. And I liked it. And at the end of the 8-week course, or the outreach course, they gave out scholarships. And I got a scholarship to the San Francisco Ballet School. I didn't know what it was. The next thing I know, I'm in the Nutcracker with the San Francisco Ballet on stage. And it was incredible. The Opera House was beautiful there, full orchestra, full company, the oldest company in the United States. And I was really blown away by I just love performing. I think that was my thing. I always just loved performing. Whenever I was getting ready to quit, so I was 8 years old when I started. And then whenever I was getting ready to quit, that kind of tenuous time, 13, 14, I had a friend say, well, you like performing, right? And I was like, yeah, I love performing. And so I'm like, well, give it one more year. And my mom would always be like, yeah, you just try it one more year and you'll be fine and we'll see. And then I got through that moment. I was awarded the Lou Christensen Memorial Scholarship when I was 16. And then I was invited to join the company at 18 in San Francisco Ballet and became the first outreach student to get into the San Francisco Ballet Company. So I thought that was kind of like my milestone moment, which was wonderful. And at the time, San Francisco Ballet was really a diverse company. I was really impressed. There was dancers from all over the world. I got a chance to dance with some amazing Evelyn Cisneros, Christopher Boatwright, Edward Ellison was there. I remember we were just having a great time with those guys. And let's see, then after that, I was there for about 7 years. And then I joined the Dance Theater of Harlem. And I think that's when my career took off. I think before that, I was kind of naive, I have to say. I didn't really, growing up in San Francisco, I just saw us as humans. And it was just naive of me. I grew up in a mixed heritage household. My mother's Jewish, my stepfather's Japanese. And so for me, I just kind of saw the world. I even lived in Japan when I was 11. So, and I read and write and speak Japanese. So for me, I didn't see the black and white of the world. And it wasn't until I got to New York that it really opened my eyes. And I got to dance with Andrea and Charmaine, and it was amazing. I have to say, if there was a dancer that really showed me what it meant to be a Black male ballet dancer, it was Donald Williams. And Principal, I didn't know that the gravity that you could have when you're on stage, and seeing Donald Williams and just being inspired by that. For me, we were working with Robert Garland on a piece called New Bach, and the way Donald Williams just stepped on to the first rehearsal, that's what I think it means to be a principal. From that first rehearsal, you're already there. You're already in performance mode. And when seeing that was really my guide. And when I got to do his role, we were performing at Lincoln Center, and I got to do that principal part. And I'll say it was an incredible experience dancing in Lincoln Center, doing that. We did Fancy Free as well. I got to do The Romantic Sailor. That was definitely a career highlight. Later on, Michael Smuin came and set a ballet on me. It's so interesting to hear all these experiences of dancers having ballet set on them, and it is very, very, very special. I got to do the lead role with Donna Williams as well on a piece called St. Louis Woman, which we toured all over, and was a very successful piece. But unfortunately, Dance Theater of Harlem closed, which was definitely sad. I went to the Joffrey Ballet, and I got to do some really fun piece. I got to work with Sir Anthony Dowell on The Dream. That was an eye-opening experience as well, just moving from the Dance Theater of Harlem, where it felt, so like a family, to moving to another company. And again, the Joffrey Ballet is a heritage company in the United States, has a lot of history, but I didn't quite feel the right fit. I don't know what it was. It didn't quite fit for me. I don't know if it was Chicago or the company or the directors, especially after coming from Arthur Mitchell, who, as we all know, he brings it. He's got that za. And that was, I learned so much from him. It was incredible. And so after 2 years at the Joffrey, I went back to the Bay Area and worked with Michael Smuin, which was an amazing experience. And I got to kind of finish my career working with not only Smuin Ballet, but the San Francisco Opera. And for me, working with the San Francisco Opera was kind of a full circle moment, because starting when I was 8 years old at the Opera House, working with the opera, it's all the same stagehands, all the same costume people, all the same makeup people. And so here I am, in my 40s, and all these people I've known since I was 8 years old working there. It was incredible. It was incredible. And now I moved up here to Seattle, working with the Pacific Northwest Ballet. I too, like Jason, in the middle of the pandemic, got a new job, and it's exciting. And I feel like Jason, it's going to be different once we get everybody back and teaching. It'll be different. I hope you're enjoying San Francisco. It's definitely my hometown. I remember running into Aisha as well in the Bay Area. It's a great place to be. And but now in Seattle, it's overcast and foggy, kind of like it is in San Francisco a lot. So it has lots of remnants of home. So I'm happy to be up here, and thank you guys for having me again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're so honored that you joined us. That's a very inspiring story. Charmaine.
Oh my heavens, just listening to Ikolo and Lauren and everyone so far, you have no idea how full I am right now. So the way my life went was I started in an outreach program. So in my middle school, there was my gym teacher had an after school dance program. And it was basically designed to give us something to do after school so that we weren't like latchkey. So the troupe, that's what it was called at the time. They had a performance for the kids in the middle school. I saw them, and then they made the announcement that they were going to have tryouts, basically auditions, to get on the team. So I went, and I was blown away by their, junior high school performance. And my dream was not to be a dancer. I was just doing this because it looked great. Everybody was moving together. And I said, okay, I'll join the team. And when I auditioned, I made it. That was a highlight because I had no idea what was in store. This particular gym teacher, her name is Sherelle Walker, had a mission, and that was to make sure that we were all, good students, good ambassadors, and whatever we focused on doing, we made sure that we followed through, that we weren't quitters. At any rate, after a year of being with this troupe, she would take us different places so that we could see theater, art, this, that, and the other thing. We didn't know that these things existed. So she would take us to the theater. One of the first performances that I saw was Dance Theater of Harlem at the Bushnell Auditorium in Hartford, Connecticut. The curtain went up. We were all dressed. We were excited. We had no idea what we were going to see. We thought we were going to see a play or something. Well, it turned out to be a ballet performance. The curtain went up, and I could not believe. I said, "Wait, are those? They look like me." The first ballet was Fête Noire, which was choreographed by Arthur Mitchell. The next piece was Manifestations, which was also choreographed by Arthur Mitchell. And the last piece was Forces of Rhythm, which was choreographed by Louis Johnson. From beginning to end, I was riveted. By the end of the ballet, by the end of Forces of Rhythm, which had a mixture of Aretha Franklin music, Earth, Wind and Fire, you name it, that kind of music was the finale. It had us on our feet. By the time the curtain went down, that was it. I knew then. I was like, I want to dance with them. I want to be a dancer and I want to dance with them. And so my gym teacher said, if you want to be a dancer, you'll have to study ballet because they are all classical ballet dancers. The troupe we were in, we weren't doing that kind of thing. We had dance, we had leotards and tights, but we weren't doing that. She was slowly getting us into teaching us about classical ballet. Yeah, we did just like Ikolo, we liked the music. This was, Aretha Franklin, Earth, Wind and Fire, War. We were dancing to stuff like that. And anyway, we practiced every day. We were learning the basics. And then I got a scholarship to the Hartford Ballet, the Hartford Ballet School. And so I was enrolled in the Hartford Ballet School for a year. And we went to the Dance Theater of Harlem School for the summer on scholarship because the Dance Theater of Harlem had come to do auditions for their summer intensive. And so I went with my very little foundation, and I was selected to go to the summer intensive. At any rate, I went to the summer intensive. I think it was 6 weeks. That intensive was 6 weeks long. And then I was selected to be an apprentice with the Dance Theater of Harlem. At the time, the apprentices were like the advanced level in the school because there was still so much that I needed to learn. And I have to confess that when I got to Dance Theater of Harlem, I had basically just started Point that summer. So the majority of my training was at Dance Theater of Harlem. We had some incredible teachers. Vicky Fadine, Victoria Simon, Patricia Wild. We had the best of the best. Tanika Leclerc, Carl Shook. We had everybody. It was real intense. So improving wasn't an option. You had to. So anyway, I ended up getting into the company a few years later after graduating high school. Because I went to the professional children's school. So I did get, into to be an apprentice that year. And then I enrolled in the professional children's school in 1978. Now I'm really giving my age away. So anyway, and then in 1980 graduated, we went on tour, Italy, Israel, London, you name it. We were all over the place, Australia, you name it. And so I had a wonderful career with the company for 25 years. After leaving the company, I did take a sabbatical for a year and I went and I worked with the Capitol Ballet Company in Washington, D.C. But after retiring, I then moved to Toronto and worked with the Lion King. I was resident director with the Lion King, resident dance supervisor. So that's a directorship with the Lion King for 3 years. And then I moved to Las Vegas. I worked with Cirque du Soleil and many other companies and the list goes on and on. But one of the highlights was dancing the role, I had many. Dancing the role of the Firebird, because how that came about was, it was an accident. I wasn't supposed to. It was just injury. So our first Firebird, which was Stephanie Dabney, an amazing individual. Oh my God, just gorgeous. The role was made on her. And I won't get too long with my story. The role was made on her. However, she was injured this one season. She has never injured. This was a tour. Our tour was 15 weeks. And the other person that had been dancing the role, who was also injured at the time, was Judy Tyrus. So there wasn't another person. So when Mr. Mitchell asked that afternoon after class, does anyone know the Firebird? So I raised my hand and I said, I do. Do you want me to teach it to someone? He was like, well, if you know it, then show it to me. And I was like, why? Because I had a mouth. Anyway, he was like, because I want to see if you really know it. So anyway, we did the rehearsal like right then. And it was Donald Williams that I partnered with. And he goes, do you really know it? I was like, do I look like I don't know this ballet? Anyway, yes. So we did the run through. And then Arthur Mitchell came up on stage and he goes, okay. Preparation met opportunity. And this is your opportunity. You're going to be performing this tonight. And I said, what? Tonight? He said, yeah, well, Stephanie couldn't because she had an injury. And so that night, surprise, I am the Firebird. And, we couldn't not do the ballet because when, presenters pay for a certain program. So you can't change the program because they've already paid for it. So we had to do it. So we had to figure this out. So at any rate, I ended up doing the ballet that night and forever until I left the company. So that night, I remember after the curtain went down, Arthur Mitchell would come on and he would bow and then bow to the audience, turn around and blow kisses to his dancers and bow again. The curtain came in. And then he says, I am so proud of you. And I said, why? I'm just doing my job. He was like, because I was a real knucklehead. But he said, you made me proud. And he had tears in his eyes. I'll never forget it. I thought, wow, I'm making him cry. That's kind of good. So that was one of the highlights. There are many others, but that for me was a highlight.
Wow, that's incredible. Representation matters. Like anyone that says it doesn't, I mean, the fact that you seeing DTH was what was kind of an impetus for you to actually pursue the career speaks so much.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Why my life has come full circle because I am now doing the same that my gym teacher did for me. So when Ikolo said he was the first outreach student to be entered into the company, I'm working so hard to make that happen for our kids in our community. So it can happen and I'm a product of it. Ikolo is a product of it. So yeah, fantastic. I love it.
Yeah. Me too. Andrea.
So I got into dance because of my mother. She saw a advertisement in the Philadelphia Inquirer for Pennsylvania Ballet School. And at the time, Barbara Weisberger was the founder of the company and was artistic director of the school, and Lupe Serrano at the time was the school director. I was 7 years old. My mom took me to Pennsylvania Ballet, and they were like, she has talent. So I went to Pennsylvania Ballet. Lupe was my primary teacher from the age of 7 to 16. I did 1 year. I went to ABT when I was 14 years old on a scholarship. I went there and then I came back, and this is how I know Debbie Austin, is because when I came back from ABT that summer course, I became an apprentice to Pennsylvania Ballet when she was a principal. And so I became an apprentice, too young to be an apprentice, didn't work out, I was messing up in school. And when I finally got it together, I decided that I wanted to come to New York. And I met Walter Raines through Barbara Santanata, who's one of my teachers in Pennsylvania Ballet. And I met Melissa Hayden, and Melissa Hayden was like, she should go to School of American Ballet to get into City Ballet. I didn't know anything about City Ballet because my teacher was a principal dancer with ABT, and that's what I grew up with, the classical ballet. Didn't know anything about balancing. So somewhere along here, Mr. Mitchell and I met when I was younger, and that's the connection. When I was like 12, we met. I came to New York, but I came to New York to go to Dance Theater of Harlem. At the time, it didn't work out, and Walter Raines, I was taking classes with Walter Raines at Alvin Ailey when he was teaching there, and he found out SAB was having an open audition for the school, and I went that day, and they offered me a scholarship. Went to School of American Ballet for 2 years and got into New York City Ballet. And I think for me, the greatest accomplishment was becoming a principal with Dance Theater of Harlem, because I always wanted to be a principal dancer. I did not want to be in the corps. And so once I was there and doing these things, because the people at Dance Theater of Harlem believed in me. Charmaine was one of my ballet mistresses. And Mr. Mitchell believed that I could be a ballerina. And he was like, no, you were meant to be a ballerina. So when I did that, left and became a principal at DTH, I will always hold that so dear to my heart. And that is why I do what I do now, is teach. And I'm now at Boston Ballet. And it's amazing. It's a lot of hard work, but I'm teaching from the young division, BB2, pre-professional level at Walnut Hill. So I'm really excited what it holds for me, because I can actually help shape what Boston Ballet will look like in a couple of years, because I get to have the whole spectrum. So I'm very happy about that. So yeah, that's it.
That's fantastic.
I teach middle school students, and right now, particularly in pandemic time, it's so difficult for them to, have to keep masks on and be 6 feet. We're lucky enough to be in person, but it's really incredible to hear all of your stories and to hear how much teachers in your life, whether it was a ballet teacher or otherwise, impacted your careers and have, kind of charted a course for all of you. And I know I feel the same in my life, and I think I can speak for Adrian and Chelsea as well, but it was really special hearing all of your stories. So thank you. Absolutely.
That leads very well into our next question. So the rule is so often in classical ballet, in professional ballet, that Black dancers don't have a chance or can't reach the same heights as white dancers. While that rule may stand, you are all the obvious exception to that rule. But the group is small, so we see that there is an exception, but not enough of one. I'm curious, what made the difference for all of you in your growing up, when you studied all the way through your professional careers, to actually make that possible for you, despite the part that race played in that? What is that secret sauce, if you will, that got you to where you are today? If it could have been maybe a scholarship or a special person in your life, I'd be very curious to hear more. Starting with Andrea.
Okay, so Lupe Serrano for me was so very important in my life. She's an incredible teacher. And she never saw me, of course she saw me different because I'm a Black child. She saw that. But she also did not train or expect less of me. She was always pushing me to do better, because she was very honest with me. I mean, she was like a second mother to me. She was very honest with me about, you're going to have challenges. And I want you to be able to do everything. And my mother, they were the two women that were, no matter what was going on, when I was told, no, it's not going to happen. I went to American Ballet Theater School, and the director at the time was like, we think you're very talented, but you're never going to be in American Ballet Theater. That right there at 14, to hear that was crushing, because that's what I dreamt of, was American Ballet. And she said, you'll never get into ABT. And I just didn't understand why. And I remember my mom coming to New York and just like, how dare you tell my daughter that? But yeah, they took me for on a full ride to be there for the summer course. But when it was asked to stay, I couldn't. So I have to say I had incredible mother and incredible teacher who, no matter what I faced, they were with me the whole time. And I faced a lot of stuff that wasn't, I just can't imagine. If I didn't have these women in my life, I would have done this. It just was too much. And I'm also a type of person like, no, you're not going to tell me no. You tell me I'm not good enough, I'm going to come back harder. That's the hood part of me. I will come back harder. You tell me no, I'll make you regret that. So yeah, I went after it because I had such incredible role models who supported me no matter what.
Yeah, that support system is seems to be one of the keys, especially with all the adversity that you all faced. Next, Charmaine.
Being at Dance Theater Harlem, which was, basically where the foundation really started, and the building, the confidence building, and being surrounded by people that looked like you. For me, I can say in my career that was not the challenge. Color was not the issue. We, as a community of dancers, were up against what the world said was that we were not supposed to be doing classical ballet. So the organization was formed for people such as myself and all the other dancers that have come since me and before me and that are there currently. So we did everything with the intention to be successful. So as far as thinking that it couldn't happen, we never saw that. Now, there wasn't a day that we didn't think we could do it, that we couldn't do it. Arthur Mitchell was a strong believer in exceptionalism, and every single one of us had to bring our best in every performance. And if we did not, oh boy, the wrath. And he expected the best from us. And because of that, because we were trained that way, we trained that way. There was, honestly, we knew that there were challenges as a company because there was a time where we couldn't as a company go to Kennedy Center without doing Dubla. We had to do that ballet. Although it's a showstopper, and right now it's one of the company's signature pieces. But of course, it's about ethnic dance and a wedding and all that, Hindu and Indies, West Indies, and all that. But and then later on, Firebird became the company signature piece. But that took years to develop, and then we eventually did Giselle, and we did Swan Lake, and all the other classics, Paquita. We did tons of classics. So was there ever a time where we felt as though we couldn't? Absolutely not. We were a ballet company. We were doing the classics, period.
Yeah, there's something about, I've only been to DTH a few times, but I think that it's almost like the senses are relieved of this, kind of Eurocentric vision that you have in most ballet companies. And you go there and it's like, it was really bizarre for me because I was so used to being kind of on guard, and I went there just for some classes, some open classes and stuff, and all of a sudden it was like a whole aspect of my usual experience was gone. So I can imagine that would be.
Yeah, because everybody else in the class looked like you. So the thing is that, okay, now we're talking about we're going to correct your tendu, your plie, your fondu, your style, your presentation. It was about the artist. So we were training the artist, not training the artist. Well, they have to be in the back. No, that's not it. If you have to be in the back, then you can't be in the company. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Next, Ikolo.
Yeah, I would also say the secret to Dance Theater of Harlem is the Balanchine repertoire. Because once you're doing a Balanchine repertoire, you're on par with every other company in the United States, straight up. So whether it's, Agon or Apollo, or, you know what I mean? These intense classicals, I got a chance to do Prodigal Son, which was like a role of the lifetime. And so that was able to show, you know what I mean? Like, so the access the access to the balancing repertoire, I think, is a huge, huge factor in the success of Dance Theater Harlem, along with, of course, all the other things that they bring. I mean, my God, they walked in. You walk in with Dance Theater Harlem to a stage, and after I remember we were in Europe, and we were in Ireland, and a guy came up to you and said, "Holy hot cross buns, you guys are amazing." I can't do the accent, but he was just blown away. You know what I mean? So it's like, is that? But one of the secrets to Dance Theater Harlem for sure is the balancing technique. I think for me personally, when my journey to Dance Theater Harlem was simple. I got a European experience. So I got a chance to be in a school from a young age, the same school of the same company that I dance in. And not only that, but a major ballet school, i.e. something like Paris Opera or Royal, right? Where I got high level training every day. And then I got to perform with the company consistently, whether it be Nutcracker or Swan Lake. So I got exposure to the high level guest artists coming from Europe, high level choreographers, all the stuff that you would get in a European experience with not only classical pieces, but with the teachers that then support it. And then you get a chance to try it out, right? Because it's one thing to get all the training, but if you don't have the stage experience to support it, then it doesn't, you know what I mean? You need the stage experience, because that's where that's where the magic happens. And that's where you learn all about your technique, what you're able to do and what you're able to not do. I guess I didn't realize at the time, but that's what was going to be the secret to my success. So I got all that high level experience, because I did every Nutcracker. I did a show, 30 shows of Nutcracker with San Francisco Ballet. Anytime they needed a kid for Swan Lake, I was that kid. Giselle, Les Sophie, so I was exposed to all the classics anytime they needed a kid. And slowly, as I got older, I remember my first Russian in the Nutcracker was like, that was a company role, and I was like 16, and I was like with the company guys and doing the tours and doing the things, and so with Eddie, if you will. and so that was incredible. And I think that was the secret to my success and I didn't realize that that's what was happening. And so when I got into the company, of course, San Francisco Ballet, being exposed to, again, all the classics, amazing male ballet dancers, amazing guest artists that joined that were working with the company at the time. When I got to Dance Theater Harlem, I didn't realize that I had all this experience. And I think Arthur Mitchell was like, whoa. And he was able then to use what I had and really push it to the next level. He has that ability to draw something out of you. So that was then, it all kind of came together for me at that moment. And it was amazing at dancing and being exposed to Charmaine's coaching as well. Dancing with Andrea is amazing. So I think that pretty much was it for me. Is that's having that unique experience of being in one place. I'm sure Lauren as well has that knowledge of what it's like to go from the school into the company, and you just kind of know, like for me, it was like I knew from watching all of Nutcracker, all the years of the company guys doing it, or the company doing it. So when I got into the company, I was able to go like, oh yeah, this is how it's done. And so that, I guess that just, it makes a big difference. And I know that's a very unique, very special thing. And it was, I'm always grateful for that. And now I try to share that with the students and try to say, okay, hey, what's it going to be like on stage? Who are you going to be on stage? Not just in the studio, but on stage. Let's go with that idea, and what can we bring from that experience to the stage? So that's kind of like what I try to share with the students now.
Absolutely. I feel like that global standard for Black dancers, usually it's kind of a non-starter. It's like, you can't, because of some of the extra things that are added on, it's just like, you can't get, unfortunately, you can't get past that. Others could, but I think the demand for excellence is so high. So the fact that all of you had such great training. Obvious was definitely played a huge part for all of you.
And then I'll just add the same thing, the same experience you had going to Dance to Harlem too, where you don't have to have that chip on your shoulder anymore, is a big deal.
Absolutely.
It's a real big deal. And, you know, Charmaine's exactly right. Andrea knows. It's that thing where you're just constantly trying to just push and be the best and know that you have to be more and better. It's tough. It's tough. And when you get to Dance Through Harlem, it was just like, you can kind of just like, go, okay, what can I do as an artist? And so I know the feeling. I remember that feeling specifically.
Yeah. Almost like that's what it's supposed to feel like, right?
Yeah. Which is kind of a strange thing. Why is it not that experience all the time? You know, why does it have to change? Anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Debra.
Yes. Determination. That's what it takes. Determination. I was told at 9 that I couldn't dance, that I didn't have the technique, or at 9 years old, to be able to be a professional ballet dancer. Because even at 9, I wanted to do this profession. So, and then at 14, the School of American Ballet told me I'd never get into the New York City Ballet, the administrative staff there, when I was 14 years old. So it just made me work harder, like Andrea. Tell me no. And then when I was in Pennsylvania Ballet, I was told that I wouldn't be able to play the Sylph in La Sylphie. So, so you just go, yes, I can, I will, I'll do it. And I did. So but I was really fortunate because Ricky is really unbelievable. I mean, he cast me, we had to do everything in Pennsylvania Ballet. I mean, we were not just given a part because, if we were doing Swan Lake, all the principals did Swan Lake. We did Coppelia, all the principals did Coppelia. If we did La Sylphie, Giselle, pretty much everybody had to dance everything. And then the balance, we had a huge balancing rep in Pennsylvania Ballet. So, that was a little bit more, that was a little bit more selected, but still, we danced everything. So I was really fortunate. I mean, when I was in Europe, Valerie Panoff called me stupid because I couldn't he didn't want me to do the Ethiopian princess the way he wanted me to, which was like rolling my eyes and sticking my tush out, So, yeah. And you know what? I won because I said, I'm not doing it like that. I'm doing it like how I want to do it. And that's what I'm going to do. He didn't take me out of the part. He let me do it. So determination, you just gotta keep your chin up and keep going.
Next we have Aisha.
I think it's obviously different for everyone. I do believe, as Miss Austin said, that it does take a particular personality. For me, that personality, I think, was developed in my very early on in my upbringing. I grew up from the inner city, in the inner city of Rochester, New York. And from a very young age, I was bussed out to a suburban school. So from, first grade on, I encountered what it was like to be other, what it was like to be a Black child in a majority white space. So from very early on, I dealt with, macro aggressions, and well before entering the ballet world, and even dealing with, even coming back home and dealing with things even from my own community, of feeling other, even there, because I did ballet, because, I didn't do many of the other things that the other kids in my neighborhood would do. So I think from very early on, I sort of came into my own identity as an individual and not letting exterior forces tell me who I am. And I have to say that, also I come from a very strong breed. My mother is an incredibly strong woman that has been through a lot in her life, and just growing up watching her, work 2 and 3 jobs, and just teaching me, from a very early age, how to change a tire, how to, change the oil in my car so that I don't have to let anybody else do it for me. Just very independent, very strong. And she taught me from a very young age, don't let anyone tell you who you are and what you can and cannot do. And that just sort of just played, in my mind from a very young age. So I think even before reaching the ballet world, I had built up this resilience and this strength and perseverance and determination and identity and awareness. With that said, it doesn't mean that it wasn't challenging. I think being a minority in any space is extremely challenging. And I forgot to mention this in my introduction. I just assumed it was just sort of out there already, but being a Black female teacher at the School of American Ballet now, I hope that, those minority students that walk in there feel that they can exhale. The first time I encountered that, we talked early on about sort of that chip, it was described as that we have, but it is this, I don't see it so much for me, I don't look at it as a chip, but it's this heaviness. It's a weight that we carry, having to work that extra, to be seen and to be noticed, but it's also the weight of that hyper awareness of I am this Black body in this white space. It is a heaviness. And I didn't because I carried that all of my life, I didn't realize how heavy that was until I started working for Alonzo King. And at that point, after I left City Ballet, for me, leaving City Ballet for me was leaving the dance world and what I was fighting for. So I think, those years after City Ballet, and when I left there, I was still young and still had so much more to learn. I was nowhere near the height of my career. I was just starting to learn things when I decided to leave. But then when I left, there was just a lot in me that just had died because I had lost my sister to cancer and then I lost my father to cancer. So I had inside had completely died and was just a body going through the motions as I continued my career. But when I reached Alonzo King, suddenly that weight was gone. And it took a minute to understand what had left, to have a Black director. And suddenly there was nothing else I had to think about but my art and dancing. And that was such a bizarre feeling for me. That was such a bizarre space to be in. And I hadn't realized, and suddenly I was able to exhale and just be an artist. And that just felt so foreign. And also I was just, I had just sort of kind of closed the door on my career in general. And it was way too late for me. I wish I had experienced that at a much younger age when I was still very much, pushing for a career. But that will forever stick with me, that feeling. And so thinking of that, I'm very conscious of that, being that body in the front of the room for these students. And not everybody needs that. Just because we all share the same skin color doesn't mean we have the same journey. And so some kids need that and some don't. But for those who do, I want to be that individual that allows them that when they step in my classroom, they can exhale and they can just focus purely on being an artist and getting that heel forward, right? It's like, that's what I want. That's what I want for them. And so for me, for my journey, my special sauce was my upbringing. My special sauce was the hood in which I was born. My special sauce was seeing my mother fight, seeing her strength, taking that Greyhound bus, sometimes, taking that Greyhound bus, sitting next to inmates from Lincoln Center and going back to my community and visually seeing the difference from, Upper West Side to my hood, right? On that long bus ride, my little dance bag, going home to see my family, and just that would fill me up, just being with my community, my people, my food, my music, like that. And that would fire me up every time I took that Greyhound bus all the way back to the Upper West Side. It was just, I brought all of that with me. I brought that with me on the stage. I brought that with me, the trials and tribulations that my family, my culture, my community, my hood, like all of that, I brought with me in the studio and on the stage every single night. And so that's my own personal journey. And that for me has been my special sauce and continues to be my special sauce as I now go back to my community and can give back to them, and to show our youth that this is not, when you look out your window and the way that they display us on the news, that is not all we are. And so I can go back and give them something through my project, the Swan Dreams Project. When I go back home and I do my camps and I speak to our youth, I want to remind them of that we are so much more than what the world tells us we are.
Wow. I mean, wow, such an incredible story. I mean, I can say that if you had been there when I was at the summer intensive of SAB, I would have probably not been lucky enough to be in your class, but even passing you in the hall, even seeing you in the elevator would have made a huge, huge difference. So I can tell you right now that, and you must know that you're making a huge impact by being there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Lauren.
I'm sorry, I'm still reeling from Aisha. Okay. I have to say everything that everyone has said so far has been my secret sauce. I can say definitely somebody believed in me before I did, for sure. I don't know what it's like to go into a studio and exhale. I don't. I've never been taught by a Black person in my life, so I have no clue. But I will say I did experience this gentleman named Ben Stevenson. And he was very honest with me in the beginning and said to me that, especially when I was about to do whatever my first lead role was, the first year I got in, he said, look, I see color. I know what color you are, and everyone else sees it too, and you're going to have to be, to them, you're going to have to be better than to be thought of as equal. So he said all of these things. He sounds a lot like Arthur Mitchell to me from the description. He said a lot of things and expected excellence at all points from everyone. And a lot, like Debra said, every ballerina in our company did every role. Like all the principals did the Swan, the Queen, all the principals did. I mean, so it was just expected that I would do it. And I expected to do it once I became a principal. I didn't expect to not do it. But I never felt like I wasn't going to be able to do it. I was always, I don't know, I felt like we were always supported. We were always prepared. The classes that I took were the same as everybody else from the moment I got into school. I was never told by a teacher that you should go to Alvin Ailey and become a modern dancer. Other people came from outside and told me that. Other dancers in the class told me that, but none of my teachers ever said that to me because I was horrible at modern dance. I was horrible. I hadn't found my back until halfway through my career. And when I found it, thank goodness I found it, because then I danced even longer. But it just wasn't. You know, I'd been training from the age of 7 at the Houston Ballet Academy. This mix of Royal, Vaganova, and I mean, it's the mix, whatever the combo is. Whatever that combo is, we had it. We were fortunate to have a Balanchine rep. The first thing we did was Serenade. And my little dark brown body was right there with everybody else, right? I mean, it's just, and I knew of Debra Austin. I knew of her, but back then we didn't have this phone. We had like newspapers and magazines. So we had to wait till something happened and we found out about it 6 months later, right? So by the time I found out about Debra Austin, she had moved on to somewhere else. And then I found out about somebody else and they moved on. What made a difference to me in my career was definitely Dance Theater of Harlem, because I didn't think I was going to be able to get into the Houston Ballet because there was one brown person and he was a man, right? So I figured I'd have to go to Dance Theater of Harlem. Now, come to find out, they probably wouldn't have hired me because Arthur Mitchell sounds real serious. But I think having principal dancers to look up to see how it was in the school was a big thing for me. getting into the company, because I only saw this, I saw the same thing the whole time. I saw what classical ballet was, the way that it was meant to be for the Houston Ballet when I was in the school. So I think that helped out with me a lot. But once I got out into the world and went to galas and danced and toured and got to see other companies, every time a ballet company came to town, I was like on the front row soaking it in, because in Houston, I felt isolated, right? You had New York, you have everything. You've got everything on the East Coast. It's all there, or up and down the West Coast. But right in the Central South, there's not much. So every time every dance company came to town, I was soaking it up, and I wanted to be the Firebird. All I want to do is be that chick in the middle of the stage in that red tutu. Then I saw a company come in, and New York City Ballet came to Houston. And then I was like, oh my goodness, I want to do theme variations. Then it's just so, when all these things came and I got to be them, I knew what it looked like already, because I'd seen it. And I'm glad that I'd seen it, because the one thing I have to say that was really special was when I did see Dancing of Harlem for the first time, I didn't know I hadn't seen a Black ballerina until I saw one. And that's kind of one-sided. Ooh, I want to be that. But all I was thinking about was dancing. It wasn't a Black thing for me. It was a turn out, get your leg up, turn it out and point your foot. You cannot have spatulas for feet as a ballerina. So what do? You put them under the piano and you stretch them until they're bent. It was just that for me for a long time. The weight was, I exhaled the first time I walked into Dancing of Harlem, actually, and I met Andrea Long, and we were standing outside talking, and I didn't know she was who she was. I'd seen her, but I didn't know who she was. And we go in and we talk, and I walked in and saw a studio full of brown dancers in brown tights and Black leotards, but like studios full of them, and I'd never seen that before. So that's the first time I kind of went and relaxed and felt extremely comfortable in a way that I'd never felt before, and I didn't really know why, right? But that was after I'd retired. I'd been teaching, that was after I retired. So I made the dance studio my sanctuary, my safe space, because it was hell outside in the real world. Going to school, I hated middle and high school, hated it, because I was bussed in and I wasn't like anybody. And so I've had a little bit of all of your stories as we sit here and talk about this. So the secret sauce, I think, is just my Blackness, what I brought to the stage, along with that tenacity and that determination that Debra's talked about, the same thing that Ikolo talked about, seeing it, same thing that Aisha talked about, bringing my meanness to it, that brassy mouth that my dear friend Charmaine has. I had a little of that too. So I'm a little bit of everybody on the screen, which is a true blessing.
Amazing. Amazing. Jason.
I got to go at all of that. Wow. I just think, I'm sitting here and the first thing that comes to my mind is I'm just so grateful hearing all of these stories. Being in this place and role now, it's so inspiring for me personally to have just a piece of what you've shared and be able to take that with me. Everybody's story is so powerful. But personally, I feel like there were a few different things for me that I guess made that secret sauce. And I think it's those people, while I had some amazing mentors and teachers, it's those people that nobody else knows, those ones who weren't necessarily on the dance floor. I too, like Miss Aisha said, I had a single mom who was very strong. Yes, 2 twin boys. She served in the military. She went away when we were young. We were with my grandmother. And she was in Desert Storm. She worked multiple jobs when she was in the US, when she wasn't deployed. And those people who made sure I still got to dance class, that I had a ride, those people who made sure Adrian, when we met at Bolshoi, while I had scholarships everywhere I studied, it didn't cover everything. You know, summer intensive in New York, I could get a scholarship for my tuition, but I couldn't get a scholarship for housing. And then it was like, well, how do I afford this? I had people in my life who stepped up and said, here's the money that you need. We're going to make sure you get there because you need to be there. And it's all of those people who constantly were in my life. And it just, every time I started thinking about it, more people come into my mind. Even Adrian's mother, when I needed a place to stay in New York for a summer, I got to live with you because I didn't have a place. So there have been so many people, and I think I've always tried to keep that appreciation with me. And my faith is what makes me believe that I constantly attracted those people into my life. I've always attracted good people. I've always attracted those people who care and who inspire me. And I credit that to constantly praying and believing. And it's funny, I remember my grandma used to always tell me, she would call me some nights because I first moved to New York when I went to Ellison Ballet. And when I got there, I had to work. I lived in Brooklyn. I had to commute an hour into Manhattan to go to ballet school. And at night, after I would finish Ellison Ballet, I would go to work at American Eagle in Times Square. So sometimes we wouldn't finish classes until 9. We'd go from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. And then I would have to go to work at American Eagle for a shift that started at 11 to 4 to close. And then I would commute back to Brooklyn and I would have to wake up the next morning and do it all again. And I called my grandma crying and I was like, I can't do this. I was like, this is too hard. And she would pray with me on the phone and she would say, reach for the stars. And even if you don't, she was like, you will always land amongst them. And that connection to my family kept me grounded, and that connection to those people who cared about me so much kept me striving and pushing for more, because I knew I had so many people who invested in me, and there was no way I wasn't going to keep pushing. So like all of you, it's just pieces. I'm so there. I feel like I have that. And hearing all of you and connecting with all of you, I have that motivation now. So I'm just personally, I'm so thankful. And like I said, every day I keep praying and thanking God that he continues to put me in the right places. I never have any worry about that. He always puts me in the right places and he always brings the right people to me. So through the bad times, now looking back, they weren't that bad because I ended up in the right place, and I know it's going to be fine going forward. So
beautiful, beautiful. Funny enough, Chelsea, our executive director, when I was about 10 years old, her and her parents would take me to their house while I waited for my single mom to finish work and come and pick me up. So that's actually how the connection started between our friendship that started the foundation. So I can concur with all of you how important that that support system is, and strong parents that are there behind you, or parents or anyone, you know, there that's supporting you behind your back. So very beautiful.
I'm so inspired by every single one of you and every single one of your stories. My heart is very full.